18 SWAT team officers were sent to the hospital in Pittsburgh after being exposed to fentanyl. The officers were conducting drug raids at several homes in the city's West End when they came in contact with the powerful painkiller Wednesday morning. Many reported feeling dizzy and suffering numbness. The officers have all been treated and released. CBS News Justice reporter Paula Reid has been tracking the story from Washington. So, Paula, how exactly were the officers exposed?
Elaine, according to court documents, when officers arrived at this location to serve a search warrant and they entered the premises, they say they saw one of the suspects trying to get out through the back. Now, during this chaotic scene, a table where drugs were being bagged, flipped over, making some of the suspected fentanyl airborne. After that, several law enforcement officers reported feeling numb and dizzy, so both symptoms of opioid poisoning or an opioid overdose, which is why the 18 officers were transported to the hospital, but thankfully, luckily, they were medically cleared.
Well, what sort of charges do the suspects face?
These 4 Pittsburgh area residents all face drug trafficking charges that face up to 20 years in prison and up to a $1 million fine.
So, Paula, what is the DOJ doing to protect first responders in these kinds of situations?
Elaine, the Justice Department and the DEA, they've been doing a real push to try to educate law enforcement officials, particularly first responders, about how to protect themselves when they come into contact with fentanyl. Now, in order to do this, they've released a guide. They've held several press events. I've attended some of them, given us access to local law enforcement officials just to talk to them about the risks that first responders face when they enter scenes like this.
Well, toxicology experts say the risk in skin contact with fentanyl is low. So what does that mean for first responders?
That is a great point. The American College of Medical Toxicology has released a statement saying that they believe the risks are relatively low, and that as long as law enforcement officials take general precautions like wearing gloves, that the risk of opioid toxicity is relatively low. But you have to think about the fact that law enforcement officials, they don't go into a controlled lab setting, right? They go into very chaotic, dangerous environments. Sometimes they are injured, and that can also increase your risk of potential exposure if you have any sort of broken skin. So it's clear that, the DEA is doing the right thing. They're continuing to educate law enforcement officials to make sure that first responders are safe whenever they come into contact with fentanyl. Because, Elaine, also, fentanyl, it's not like Coca-Cola. It's not like there's a specific recipe. And there's increasingly this pressure on drug dealers to increase the potency, which also, of course, increases the risk to law enforcement officers.
All right, Paula Reid in Washington for us. Paula, thank you.